I know you find that hard to believe. It's only 5 minutes late. Thank you, darling. Yeah, over here. pjnet.tv, take two, play two. Bumper running, channel switched, we are streaming, recording, and we are ready to go to Studio 8 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, that was fun. Did you see what just happened? It happened. It's happened one other time, folks. One of those little details, but we're back on track. And normally on Wednesday night, many of you are here to see Michelle Medlock Adams. But if you know her, you know darn well she's not going to be here because she has a brand new grandbaby. Anytime Michelle has a planned absence or even an unplanned, at least you had a little notice on this one. Ashley Jones is actually associated with Michelle. She helps her with all of her social media and stuff, and stuff. So Ashley, Michelle's obviously going to be indisposed tonight. So, but you have been giving some thought. You've had plenty of time to think about it. You had more than 5 minutes of notice. And you look at ease in spite of all that has gone wrong just in the past 5 minutes. I congratulate you on that. And but a lot of people are not at ease. This is a time that is challenging many people, and it's a time to either panic or relax or ignore or get in the fetal position. But there is peace.
Yes, absolutely. And I will start off by admitting I am not immune to what is going on. You know, we've had our own struggles with this, just like every other family has. Having a 16-month-old in the middle of a worldwide pandemic is not easy. And so I totally relate with what other people are going through. And we certainly don't have it all figured out by any means. We're just hopefully going in the right direction. And so I wanted to share some things that I've been studying for actually quite a while. And I feel like they helped prepare us a little bit for this. And while we would never want something like this to happen again, I think being spiritually prepared for things is always good. Mm-hmm. And so for years I've been studying this spiritual journey. And I've taught classes on it. I'm writing a book on it. And so it's just been something on my heart for many years. And one thing that I'm seeing it's part and parcel of this is the idea of spiritual disciplines. And that's not a word that we talk about in the church a lot. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there are just some things that you don't hear a lot from the pulpit, or depending on your denomination, it might be something that your neighbor hears and maybe you don't. And a book I came across a couple of years ago is a classic, actually. And it's, you can see that this is one of the covers, Celebration of Discipline. Mm-hmm. And it's by Richard Foster. And it sold over 1 million copies. It's just a classic. I think the original copyright is 1978, if that gives you an idea. What is so amazing about this book, and I've used it as a resource for many years, is that he lists not 1 or 2 spiritual disciplines. He lists 12 spiritual disciplines. And only one of them is worship. And right now we're in the middle of this pandemic. We're doing this self-isolation thing and social distancing. We're all at home, and hopefully, you know, we're able to find some kind of service on Sunday morning through our pastor or someone else's pastor, that sort of thing. But there's this feeling that, oh, we can't meet. We can't meet at church. Mm-hmm. Oh, what's happening? The world's coming to an end. Mm-hmm. We do not dictate what God is going to do. our ability to meet in a church is not going to stop God from moving in our country if he wants to do that. And that's really what we should be praying for in the middle of this, is that we would find God in the middle of all this. And I've heard actually accounts that other countries, including China, that they are seeing a movement of God because people are tuning in on their computers to watch services. I mean, it's amazing. God can move and will move. He is not dependent on us. So worship and communal fellowship is important, but there's so many other ways that we can grow closer to the Lord. And right now, in our homes, by ourselves, with our immediate family, we really need to be taking this as an opportunity to grow closer to the Lord in these other ways that make more sense for us right now. And what's so interesting is if you think about disciplines, Mark, you probably think of like studying your Bible, right? Or getting up early and praying. So those are two of the four inward disciplines. There's meditation, prayer, fasting, and study. Okay. Richard Foster also came up with four corporate disciplines. We already said worship, confession, guidance, and celebration, which a lot can be said about that. But then there are outward disciplines. There's simplicity, solitude, submission, and service. And simplicity and solitude are the ones that I thought we could talk about tonight, because those are the ones I feel like are just screaming at us that we can step into those even while we cannot pursue that corporate worship and those communal things that we're so used to. Does that make sense?
It does. We have had to simplify our lives because some of the common conveniences are being denied us.
Yes, exactly. So, sometimes I feel like if we don't do something on our own, God will do it for us. He'll present us with this opportunity that makes it a little bit easier. And I think that might be a little bit of what's going on here. Simplicity is one that my husband and I started really digging into more after I read about this. It just resonated with us. And it was something that I had never heard a pastor openly speak about. And the idea is that when we seek God first and foremost, then we simplify our lives. Everything else flows from that. And that's actually a very oversimplified way of even putting it, because there's a lot of things that we can simplify, right? We can simplify the way we speak. We can simplify the way that we dress. We can simplify the way that we spend our money. And for us reading this, like I said, this was written in 1978. For us reading this a couple of years ago, the big thing that really came to mind was minimalism. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's just so common right now.
It's a
Joshua
thing.
Becker.
Yeah.
It is a thing. I read Joshua Becker's book, Becoming Minimalist, More with Less, and his website is becomingminimalist.com. And I read that at the same time I read this, and it was such a God thing, because I saw how focusing on God first and letting him guide how we spent our money and how we interacted with people, even just our entire lives, how we just let God take control of that, really meshed well with this idea of minimalism. And so it's all about priorities. And so we started pursuing that a couple years ago. And as a side note, Joshua Becker used to be a youth pastor. So his take on this is not like a new age kind of thing, which I think a lot of it can be. But it's a very Christian world view that he brings to the plate. And I think that made a difference for us. So we started pursuing simplicity and minimalism a couple of years ago. We started just getting rid of a lot of things. And can you still see me, by the way?
Yes, I was just making some adjustments on this end. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, cool. So we started giving away a lot of stuff we didn't need. We started getting rid of junk. You really stopped buying things. Made a lot of life changes. In fact, God made life changes for us. As you know from us talking before, I left the business world. I started staying home. I got pregnant with our first child. So we had a lot of life changes, but we just said enough is enough, and we stopped spending money on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped to make us more aware of where we were putting our money. At the same time, we decided that what we did buy, we would try to make it more eco-friendly. That we would, in terms of my like hair products and all that stuff, it would be cruelty free.
Mm-hmm.
We started making a lot of our own things, cleaning solutions, that sort of thing. So we just really started digging deeper and deeper and realized that we wanted to put our money where God wanted us to put our money. We wanted to give more in tithing. We wanted to bless certain people in ministries and not spend our money on clothes and eating out all the time and that sort of thing. So it really changed a lot for us. And when the pandemic happened, we were like, okay, we will hunker down,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to pray and hunker down, but we already had a lot of the supplies that we needed, and we had already made room, by getting rid of a lot of junk, and we had just kind of already set our heart on just living simply. So we dug another garden, and we, we just kept doing what we were doing. And I think a lot of people out there that are so into that commercial mindset, which is sold to us from birth, from all the
Mm-hmm.
media that we're in, that we see constantly. The latest cell phone, the latest clothes, the latest this, the latest that. It's constant. If you watch any commercials, it's constant. I think a lot of those people are having a little bit of a hard time right now because that need to consume
Mm-hmm.
is not being fulfilled. So I'm praying that this could be a period of reset for people, just like we went through a period of reset in our family, that folks will hopefully realize that no, they haven't been able to go to the mall for a month, but they're still okay. They're spending more time with family. They're playing in the backyard with the kids. And hopefully people will realize that those times are more important and valuable than walking the halls of the mall and that sort of thing. So I'm praying for a countrywide reset, if you will,
Reset.
where we
Yeah.
start realizing some things.
You've really got me thinking, Ashley. There's so much that I don't know if you said it, but here's some thoughts. First of all, because if you're restricted and limited from going out, when you make that trip to the grocery store, you make the most of it. You make a list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And like now when I go get Copenhagen, I don't get 2 cans, I get 10. Because you just can't just run down to the store unnecessarily, and
Yes.
and well, I know that's kind of funny, but think about it.
It is kind of
What that
fun,
does
yeah.
is it saves gas, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it saves time, which means if it saves time, we can redeem that time for something else. Now,
Yes.
if you're spiritually
Yes.
connected, that presents an opportunity. Now, you also commented on something that I think you called it consumerism, okay? But let me give it a new title: the spirit of mammon, okay? This whole idea
Yes.
of cosmopolitan. No, you don't
Yeah.
need the most recent version of the iPhone. You don't.
Yes.
And we can learn to live more simple. But that in and by itself is it. If that's all you do is live more simple, all that you've really done is live more primitively. You've got to
Yes.
redeem the time. You've got to redeem this
Absolutely.
savings and use that as an opportunity. And it also will give us pause to reflect upon how we are driven to consume and consume and consume. Now, the world,
Yeah.
and here's the thing, is there's never enough. If you don't think you're addicted, the fact that you can't do it and it hurts tells you you're hurt, you're addicted. Now,
Yeah. And look at all these social media posts. People are going crazy.
yeah.
I mean, you can't get to the mall, can't do this, and people are even defying the bans to go
Hmm.
to places and be with people and buy things. And it's
Right.
if
You
if
you
if
don't
you're in
need.
that place, you're addicted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need. Now, I wanted to preach a little bit because the word discipline for many people is problematic, because when you think discipline,
Mhm.
you might be thinking about getting your rear end warmed up by your parents. Um,
Yes.
Folks, that is punishment.
Right.
Okay? discipline. There's a difference between discipline and punishment. And let me put it to you this way. When you see a well-disciplined child, you don't say, well, now there's a well-punished child. You say, well-disciplined. And remember, the word disciple comes from the word discipline. Okay?
Absolutely.
Discipline is good, and I'll tell you why. A well-disciplined dog can be let out in the yard to roam. A less disciplined dog has to be on a leash. Think about that. If we will discipline ourselves, that isn't a restriction of our freedom. It creates freedom for us. Give that some thought.
I like that, Mark. And you're exactly right that word does hang up a lot of people. It's interesting to me. I've talked on the topic of the spiritual journey and sanctification versus salvation. And it's interesting to me that Christians today don't always understand, because they're not taught. They don't understand that sanctification is a process, and that it's a process where we become more like Jesus because we're drawing closer to him. Just like a child will become more like her mom or his dad. We become more like Jesus because we're following him and because we belong to him. And so we start to look more like him and act more like him. And the Bible calls it from glory to glory. So that's a process that we have to participate in. It is not something that happens to us and we are passive. Salvation happens to us, but sanctification, we must be active. And so I've actually had conversations with people who denied that. And so it's important that we stay in the Word and that we're open to this, what the Word teaches. And the Word is clear that we must take action in order to not become saved, but in order to become what God wants us to be. And so that's why these types of conversations are so important. And we're all in different places. Maybe, that discipline of simplicity doesn't connect with someone. Well, that's perfectly fine. You may not be there. That may not be for you today, but there are other disciplines of worship and of meditation, prayer, and things like that. And so maybe the Lord's trying to connect with you over there, but we still need to discuss these things and be aware of them. And it's amazing, and I really recommend this book, Celebration of Discipline, to every single Christian, because I've never read another book that really pulled together these other resources and Bible text to outline what these disciplines are. And I've never seen it in a church before. Shame on us, right?
I think your point is well taken and a good one. Salvation is something that happens, okay? But sanctification is a process that you're engaged in. Now, I have seen in my own family people who are undergoing some sort of treatment, medical treatment, doctor's care, rehab, whatever. And I've got certain family members that think they are not a part of it. The doctor or the staff is there to make them better. No, you have to actually cooperate. You have a responsibility in that. But we've grown up in a world where we want to take a pill. Just give me a shot. I don't want to eat better. Give me one of those diet pills where I can just eat however I want to. It's a lack of discipline. I could go on and on. How much talent does it take to be on time? None.
Right.
It does, however, take discipline.
Right.
And discipline reflects character.
Yeah, it does. And,
did I let the genie out of the bottle and now we can't get it back in? So.
These are things that we can talk about all day, but we need to model them, because we can't blame people for not knowing. We need to model it. We need to talk about it. We need to help disciple people within the church so that they understand that there are things they need to do. Christianity is not I believe in Jesus, I got baptized, I'm done. It is not a 3-step program. This is a day-to-day walk
Mm-hmm.
where we become more like the one who saved us.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to do that, then why are you here? Why are you a Christian? If you don't want to be like the one who saved you, and if that doesn't get you, then I have questions for you. So we need to be talking about discipline,
Well,
and we need it needs to be an internal thing.
I wonder to what extent the intelligentsia community out there has contributed to the problem. For example, you give a glowing recommendation of this book that has 12, let me guess, 12 steps.
12 discipline.
12
Yeah.
discipline. Well, you see where I'm going with this. We want a 12-step program. We want to just, well, folks, that's good to write a book. That's good to conceptualize it, but it actually isn't quite that simple. Just like we want to go take a pill, we want to go read a book that's got the magic formula that we're missing. I spent much of in my 20s, I was consuming book after book after book on achievement and motivation and these types of things. And of course, every time I would buy the book, I'm thinking, somewhere in this book is going to be the answer. And I'd read the book and say, well, this really is not that different from the last one. And really, it's just common sense. And then it dawned on me, there is no magic pill. There is no silver bullet. Okay? The life of sanctification, okay, is a discipline. Now think about the Great Commission. Does it go out and say, do good works, give good money, build church? No, it says, make what? Disciples. Disciples. People who have a discipline, who are walking intentionally in a path with a destination of being Christ-like. Right. It's so easy to see that, but yet it's not that easy to do it in the world that we live in, because we're told you will not be happy until you get one of these.
Right.
And
right. I think we have a harder time here in the West because we do receive that message so much here in America. I think some other countries don't have that issue as much as we do, but we do need to be aware of it and turn it off.
Well, here's the funny thing. When you get one of those, whatever that next thing is, it actually does for a season, for a moment. You do feel good about it. You do feel this satisfaction, the pride of ownership, and the benefit of using whatever the widget, the gizmo is. I mean, I consume stuff. I get all excited when I get new toys. But the shelf life of that is very short, and it is an addiction, because then when that wears off, you need to go get this, and it keeps going up, and it starts to consume you, and now you are a slave to it. So listen, you can be a slave to Jesus Christ and to the kingdom, or you can be a slave to the world. You're a slave either way. Which would you rather be? There's a difference.
Yeah. Yep.
Gosh, you got me thinking tonight. That's good.
I'm so glad.
I'm glad you are. You said you're working on a book. We're going to go a little extra because we got started late and had some problems. So you said you're working on a book. Now, I didn't know about that. I thought you just came out with a book.
Oh, I'm a writer. We always have a few in the back, right?
Okay.
This has actually been my heart's desire, I guess, since about 2004, after my grandmother passed away. The working title is called Girls with Gusto, and it's just something that I continue to work on, and we've pitched it to some publishers who had some really good feedback to it, so I know it'll find a home eventually. The idea is that it walks young women through those steps of that spiritual journey, and it's not a 12-step program like you said. It's not that type of do this and you'll be there, but it's in your walk with the Lord, what are you going to encounter, and how can you progress? And so that's why discipline is so important, because I think most people don't even realize that they should be progressing at all. I didn't, spiritual life was just like this little merry-go-round thing. You're just on and spinning around. I really didn't know what I was supposed to be doing with any of it. And I thought, I'll just keep praying more, and I'll read my Bible more, and I'll study more. And it's like, well, to what end? What's the point and purpose here? And when I finally started realizing that I was supposed to actually grow, just
Mm-hmm.
like we grow as human beings, I'm supposed to grow spiritually. It all really started connecting for me. And so that's what Girls with Gusto is about. And a lot of my blog posts on Big Sister Knows is really intended toward that same end. And I hope to have a lot more on it really soon. My classes at the Tallahassee Christian College have also been the meat of this book about the spiritual journey. And so it's been really encouraging to hear people's feedback on this, because even people who have been in the church for a long time really, like I said, we just kind of fail to see this growth process and fail to understand how sanctification really affects us and what that means and what are we supposed to do with that. So yeah, Girls with Gusto, praying for a home for Girls with Gusto.
Well, I think as you were saying that, it makes me reflect. There's a difference between process and product, and a lot of organized religion, let's just say it that way, teaches this notion that if you go, I'm going to get back to that 12-step program and critique that a little bit. Folks, you can go to confession, you can take communion, you can say, I'm going to set my alarm at 5:30 in the morning and I'm going to spend some quiet time with God. Those are all good things, okay? But you can't just go through the motions,
Right.
and you can't say, you can't bargain with God, okay? God doesn't work for us. He doesn't serve us. You can't say, but God, I did my quiet time this morning. Why are you allowing this to happen to me? God, I need that Corvette. And by the way, I gave to the church and I did this and I did that. Folks, we're not scoring. This isn't a football game where you're putting points on the board for God, okay? And then using that to bargain. And I think that's the danger or the caution that I would say. When you go through this process, you need to be reflected inward, okay?
Right.
Don't use this as bargaining chips for negotiating with God. Doesn't work that way.
Right.
The benefit
And
of the quiet
another
time with God is the quiet time with God.
Right. And the other aspect of that is legalism.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 really that's why I did like this book, is because it's not about steps and it's not about a process. It's about methods that we should be engaging in, that the Bible speaks of, that Jesus presented and modeled himself, that we should be engaging in. And one of the pitfalls that it mentions is legalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be very careful that we don't go to the other end of the spectrum and say, oh, well, now I'm a minimalist.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm good. Or now we moved into a tiny home and gave away all our money. So now we're super spiritual and we can look down on people who spend all this money on Christmas toys or whatever. It doesn't work that way either. This is, there's a very fine line and a very narrow path to sanctification. And that's kind of the point. The Lord is the one who holds us up on left and right and makes sure that we are going in that straight path. And if we lean on our own understanding, and if we
Mm-hmm.
try to do things that seem right to us, or that make us feel good, or that we think in our heart is okay, we will fail. We have to rely on the Lord to guide every step of the way, even as he guides us to himself. And so there's so many ways that we can go wrong, even as we're trying to go right. And
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. We just have to rely on him with everything. And as long as we're really focused on him first and primary, I think that's a good that's a good start. That's where we want to be. And he can help us with the, not going right or left. But yeah, legalism's a big one too.
Yeah. Well, I struggle with my prayer life. Okay,
Mm.
that has just been a constant battle with me, and I have times I'm doing better and times I'm doing worse. But I realized I had turned a corner at a point in my life when I see life flight flying, or I see an ambulance going with his lights on. That's my prayer time.
Right. When you
Somebody,
respond to something.
somebody is hurting.
Yeah.
Somebody is hurting. And I will stop and offer up prayer. I have nothing to gain. I don't even know who I'm praying for. But I know with certainty that was a real one of those turning points in my life when I realized I may not be the best quiet time person in the world, but I would not trade that for, well, I do my quiet time all the time, and I never even observe. I have no situational
Mm-hmm.
awareness of needs around
Mm-hmm.
me because I did my part.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I agree. I know we don't have any time left, but that other discipline of solitude really lends itself to what you were just saying. The idea that we purposefully seek God
Hmm.
in a listening type of silence, and we try to hear what He has to say. And part of that is being aware of what is around us, because if we're constantly talking and we're constantly bombarded with TV and media and people around us, and we're constantly out and about like everybody always is,
Hmm.
then it's very difficult to hear what the Lord has to say, and it's very difficult to have a prayer life with Him. I'm hoping and praying again that during this time of self-isolation that we can stop and be a little still, and maybe we can hear a little bit of what the Lord wants us to hear during this time. Um, I think it's a better time than ever for that sort of thing. But being aware of the needs around us is crucial. And you're right, when you become immune to that, then you're really uh, insensitive to
Yeah.
what's going on. And how can you love your brother if you don't know your brother is
Right.
in pain?
I
So,
think we need to develop
yeah.
spiritual situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, situational awareness. I've noticed when I go to the store, there's something about going to a store that when people enter a store, they lose all situational awareness. They are totally unaware that there's anybody else in the world. It's very
Yes,
frustrating for me, but
on speakerphone. On
yeah,
speakerphone.
yeah. But when I see that life flight or I see that ambulance with their lights on, screeching toward the hospital, let me think of triggers. Okay, in my own life, there are a couple of triggers. Sometimes, I get wound up tight as a banjo with the things of the world, like you just said, and suddenly I will hear those Canadian geese, and I stop. It's almost like God's sounding an alarm, saying, "Hey, coach, look up, look up." Another one is when it rains. Oh, I love the rain. There's just
Yeah.
something peaceful and soothing to my spirit about the rain.
Are
Now
we
maybe,
Southern or what?
well, and you may have different things but I would encourage you to find triggers that will,
Mm-hmm.
what would it take for you to stop what you're doing and just say, God, let me just spend a minute with you. And for me, it's the geese, the rain, or the ambulance or the life flight. But folks, if we discipline ourselves to do those things, it'll help us in our walk with Christ, and that's what PJNet.TV is about, is our walk with Christ. And yeah, Ashley, you do such a great job. Gosh, I miss Michelle, but she can take off any time if you'll stand in for her. Okay, I'll tell her.
I miss her too.
well, She won't be quiet very long. Don't worry.
No, a day or two.
We don't have to worry about that. But Ashley, thanks for filling in. You've really got me thinking, Ashley, and that's rare. Okay. That's my, but
I appreciate that.
thanks for sharing, and heck, we'll see you next time, whenever that is. I can't wait. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Wow, that was good. She's pretty smart. She thinks right. She thinks like I do. Hey, appreciate everybody in the chat room at pjnet.tv. Tomorrow night, everything should be on track. I just want to say a quick hello to you remember that romper room woman that held up the magic mirror? I see Doug, and I see Emily, and I see Hazards, and I see JD, I see Kari, I see Lori, I see Monty, I see Rachel, I see Sunbelt Girl. And you know what? There's probably been some that I haven't seen that have been kind of come and gone. And I can't see all of you out on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, but we love you. We love you. Here at pjnet.tv, we'll be back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and I can't wait. Now, who's it going to be? Go to pjnet.tv. There's a link in there called Schedule. Yeah. And we kind of go by it. Unless there's a last-minute cancellation. Folks, we're having some growing pains here, and thank you for your patience. Thank you for your long suffering. I'll figure this out. Okay, I figured out more complex stuff than this, but so kind of hang in there with us. We're jittering, but we're growing, and folks, we are about to unleash digital warfare on a scale that I have only dreamed of. But we now have the weapons. Okay, I just got to get them all put together, and boy, Satan's fighting me. Yeah, he's anyway. But he, oh, good thing. Hey, listen, gotta go. I've got to make the highlights videos, and thank you all for sharing these things on social media and getting the word out. But we're still the best kept secret on the internet. So invite somebody to come join us tomorrow night right here at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, I will leave you with 2 questions. You don't have to answer me, but you might want to answer yourself. First question: what is the boldest thing you have ever done for Jesus Christ? Now, you may come up with something and say, I got that. I nailed it. Well, then the second question is one you should consider. How long ago was that? You see, it is my goal, and I hope you'll accept the challenge, to never be satisfied with either answer.